All right, it looks like we're at critical mass here, so I'll begin the introduction. So thanks, welcome everybody to today's webinar. We have an exciting webinar to present to you, giving you all the ins and outs of the ZEVIP program. And we'll be sharing best practices and a lot of considerations for you as you're considering your future electrification projects. So get your notepads ready. My name is Andy Supersod. I am the host today. From the FLO's marketing team. Joined with us today, we have three awesome speakers to guide this presentation. We have Alan Truskowski, our resident charging expert who has worked with thousands of clients and installed thousands of chargers at his time here at FLO. We have Yomna Santos, our application engineer, has worked with many of our clients to design amazing site plans and develop electrification plans that are best suited to our site's capacities, and have worked with many clients to bring their projects to life. And we're joined as well, additionally, by Tony Ciccio from Canoe Procurement, who will walk you through how their organization can support public entities with implementing charging infrastructure projects in conjunction with ZEVIP. So Alan, this is your time, and I'll just mention Q&A. Please post your questions in the Q&A portion of the chat. We'll take all questions at the end of the presentation. Alan, let you kick it off there, pal.
Great. Thanks so much, Andy. Thanks for the intro. Nice to meet everybody on the in the meeting. Thanks for spending your summer afternoon with us. Hopefully you gained some great insights and some valuable information from our presentation today. My name's Alan. I'm the Business Development Manager for Ontario. I also look after national accounts as well. I've been with the company for quite some time, so just over 7 years now, helping install charging stations. So I'd say I have quite a bit of good experience, great experience with installing EV chargers and across multiple different projects. I also have a lot of experience with the different rebate programs. I know we're talking about ZEVIP today, but in the past I've been involved with programs such as EVCO, there was Charge On, there was EVA there was ZEVIP, there's the ZEVIP program, and there was a WebSIP program as well. So quite a lot of different programs I've been a part of, but I have, like Andy mentioned, installed thousands of chargers through the different programs. So nice to meet everybody. Today, what we're going to be talking about is we're going to be talking about market insights, right? I know there's different news out there regarding electric vehicles, electric vehicle charging stations. So we'll dive into some market insights to start things off. Following up with that, we're going to talk about FLO. I'm sure if some of you on the in the meeting drive electric cars, you've used our network or are familiar with our network, but we'll talk about the network for those of you that may be new to EV charging, and we'll talk about the company. Then we're going to dive into the ZEVIP funding program. So you are here because you want to find out more about incentives, rebate programs. This is an amazing incentive program. It basically covers installations all the way up till 2027. So we'll go into the details and how you can apply for it and all the relevant information. Then I'm going to pass things off to Yomna, who's our application engineer. She's going to tell you a little bit about considerations when selecting a partner, right? What do you consider when you're selecting an EV charging partner? Next, we're going to talk about solutions. How can we support you on your ZEVIP application, right? We have a lot of different chargers. We have a big team, experienced team. So how can we best help you and support you for your EV charging project? Then we're going to talk about best practices when you're completing your applications, right? What to do, what to look for, what to think about when you're completing your application. And then finally, we're going to pass things off to Tony. Tony is the manager over at Canoe, and he's going to tell you about how public sector clients can leverage their program to help streamline their procurement for EV chargers. So, you hear different things, right, about the EV charging industry and EVs in general. But in a nutshell, even when you go on the NRCan website, they tell you right off the bat that their mission is to have 100% of of new light-duty vehicles sold to be electric by 2035. So the ZEVIP program is provided by the federal government. It's done through Natural Resources Canada, and it says that right away when you go onto the ZEVIP landing page. So the government is behind electric vehicles. They want to lower greenhouse gas emissions in the country, and that's a big piece of getting that achieved. Now, EV adoption is on the rise as well. You can see there, 139,000 electric vehicles sold in 2023. Just a lot of growth, right? From 2020 all the way up to 2023, over 53% annual growth. A lot of that, as you can see, has to do with new electric vehicles coming on the market, right? As things go on, things get better, technology improves, right? You have much higher battery capacities these days, right? Comparing to 3, 4, 5 years ago, and that continues to grow. And charging just gets faster as well. I remember when I started in the industry, like 50 kilowatts was a, great fast charger. And now we're talking, 320 kilowatt is, going to be the gold standard. And then you have things like prices of vehicles, right? Electric vehicles were always known to be higher costs, right, than your traditional combustion engine vehicle. And, slowly as time goes on, the price parity gets equal. And that's not even considering the amount of savings that you get, not using gas, and gas prices, as keep going up. Last thing I'll say is, look, our company has grown leaps and bounds. I remember when I started back again in 2017, we had about 5,000 chargers coast to coast, right? That was the largest network. And now we have over 83,000 charging stations publicly accessible. So now I'm going to tell you a little bit more about who we are as a company. As I mentioned, a lot of you are pretty familiar with our network, but for those of you who are not, we've been around for quite some time. So one of the oldest EV charging companies out there, over 15 years of experience. We had our 15-year anniversary this year. So we were founded in 2009. We have proven manufacturing processes, right? We've manufactured and sold over 100,000 chargers at our 2 manufacturing plants. One is in Quebec and one is in Michigan. What people are most familiar with us is our uptime, right? If you're going to capture anything from this slide, think about uptime. That's the percentage of time our chargers are up and running. And that's why our members keep coming back to us, right? Because when they pull up to a charging station, they know that our charging stations are going to be up and running. The payment system is going to work. The power that's advertising is what they're going to get. And it's not the same across the industry, unfortunately. So EV drivers, they use us for our reliability. And then obviously we keep our finger to the pulse of what our clients are saying, right? And you can see that last section there just tells you about our customer satisfaction. And that's both on the driver side, but also our station owners as well. So this just shows you a glimpse of our public map. You access our charging stations in a number of different ways. You can use our app. You can use any of our roaming partners apps. We have roaming partnerships with all the major networks that are out there. And you can see that our app was recently updated. It's a very highly rated, user-friendly app. But our network is the biggest in Canada, really, right? You have 83,000 public chargers that you can access on our public map. You can see there are millions of charging events happening every month, and hundreds of thousands of members that loyally use our network. And then you can see a whole laundry list of end clients that use our charging stations and purchase our charging stations and own our charging stations, ranging from major utilities, major cities, and then also major commercial customers as well. Our charging stations, basically all of these all of these different market segments can also apply and leverage the ZEVIP rebate programs. So you have locations like academic institutions that are putting chargers for staff, for students, for visitors. Then you have automakers and dealers, right? Automakers are big clients of ours. We have partnerships with most of them. We do a lot of testing with the different OEMs as well, compatibility on charging stations. And dealers are big, right? They install charging stations to service the vehicles that they're selling, and also to have chargers available for their electric vehicles. Cities and municipalities are huge, right? They can they can put charging stations in a number of different locations, right? Public locations, workplace locations, and then fleets as well, which is the next section. Fleets come in a lot of different shapes and sizes, right? You have commercial fleets, you have municipal fleets, you have all types of different fleets, and those can be light duty vehicles and heavy duty vehicles as well. Hospitality is big, right? They're big on installing charging stations, drawing people to their hotels and locations. Gas and convenience, they're slowly converting, right? These gas stations, they're turning the page on gas and getting with the new trend, right, with EV charging, and they're putting in these fast chargers along these highway corridors and transit routes. You have multi-unit dwellings, right? Apartment buildings, condos that are figuring out how to electrify and provide EV charging for tenants. And then you have retailers, right? Retailers, site hosts, they're looking to draw traffic to their locations. Usually they do a mix, right? Level 2 charging, level 3 charging. It's a great way to draw traffic. Utilities are big into electrification, right? It helps them as well, right? With more people driving electric, people start installing charging stations at their homes, so it's good for them to get in the game of EV charging and install charging stations in the communities that they service. Then you have workplaces, right? Employers looking to provide employee benefits, attract visitors in some instances as well, can all install charging stations in workplaces. The great thing about all these market segments is they're all eligible for the ZEVIP rebate program, which we're going to be talking about. So for those of you who aren't too familiar with the types of charging, we'll run through it here just because it is related to the funding program and the funding amounts that you could potentially leverage. So level 1 charging, we don't manufacture as a company, right? Level 1 chargers, the reason we don't is because they come with the vehicles in most cases. They're very slow, right? They plug into 120-volt outlet. You're maybe getting up to 6 kilometers of range in about an hour. We manufacture level 2 and above. So we have our level 2 charging stations. You have a wide range of power with the level 2s, anywhere from 7.2 kilowatt up to the fastest level 2 chargers on the market, which we have is 19.2 kilowatts. So that gives you ranges typically of anywhere from 25 to 75 kilometers, just depending on the power of the charger you install, but also the vehicle that's plugging in, right? You're always limited by the vehicle's battery management system as well. That's why you have those big ranges. And then finally, you have your DC fast chargers, right? Your DC fast chargers, they're great in like your transit corridors, heavy duty fleet applications, and those range as well, right? Anywhere from 25 kilowatt to 320 kilowatt. And that's going to also depend on the vehicle that's plugged in. And, there's a wide price range, obviously, of course, as well, right? For the infrastructure and for the hardware. So now we're going to talk about the rebate program, the ZEVIP program. So ZEVIP is short form for the Zero Emission Vehicle Infrastructure Program. It's a program that's been around for quite some time. 2019 is when it first came out. And they've had different rounds with different RFPs. This specific round we're hearing is most likely going to be the last round, which is important to think about and to apply for. And the reason it's most likely the last round is because it's a long time to deploy the charging stations. You're basically going to have up until March 31st, 2027 to install your chargers. So it's important to think when you're thinking about, hey, is this program right for me? To think about, your charging needs in 2025, 2026, and even early 2027. The funding, it covers up to 50 to 75%, depending, if you're a traditional client, you get 50% off. If you're indigenous or identify as indigenous company, then you can get up to 75% off of your total project costs. And total project cost is important as well. So that means it's not only the hardware, but also the installation that's covered. Then you have you have up to 5 million per project in funding. So, a lot of money that you can get towards your projects. And when we say per project can include multiple different locations. Okay, so if you have 5 locations, you want to put charging stations in all of them, then you can apply on one application, you can get up to 5 million for the entire project. Funding for level 2 chargers, level 2 or about 1/10 the cost of level 3. So you're getting up to 50% off hardware and install costs, up to 5,000 if you're a traditional client, up to 7,500 if you're indigenous. And then on the fast chargers, you have a wide range, right? On the lower side, you can get up to 15,000 on like a 25 kilowatt, all the way up to 150,000 on the higher power units. So who can apply? I mentioned the different market segments earlier, but basically, nonprofit, profit organizations such as companies, electric utilities, industry associations, indigenous business and community groups, condo courts, strata and condo corporations, and then obviously Canadian provincial, territorial, regional, or municipal governments can all apply for this rebate program. The eligibility requirements, installations must be located in Canada. They must be installed in compliance with electrical codes. They must be a permanent fixture, right? You can't have any portable charging stations. Charging stations must be new or purchased equipment, so there's no leasing of charging stations in this program. Installations have to be for new sites or expanding to existing sites. Natural Resources Canada, they're looking to add dots to their charging maps, right? So they want to just have these as new or additions. You can't replace any old charging stations. Charging stations must be certified for use in Canada, commercially available, and be connected to a charging network. So that means you need to communicate somehow these charging stations, usually through cellular in our case, or there's other options like Wi-Fi as well. Finally, there's certain charging connectors that are applicable to this funding program, and they're listed all there. A lot of different costs are covered, which is great with this program. Not only the hardware costs, like I mentioned earlier, but things like salary and benefits, professional services, reasonable travel costs, capital expenses, such as the hardware of the chargers, rental fees or leasing of a certain equipment, right? Maybe you need to forklift or a jack, things like that. Then you have your licensing fees, costs associated with environmental assessments, GST, PSD, HST, net of any tax rebates that the recipient is entitled to. And then also some overhead expenses, up to 15% of the eligible expenditures can be put towards the rebate program. Different funding streams that you can apply for. So under the quote unquote public section, you have public corridors and communities, right? Public corridors, think of like those transit routes, right? And this is where NRCan, they're looking to fill those holes on those charging maps. There's different scoring that's associated with the funding. So there's if you're on the incentive program webpage, there's a map that you can view and see kind of like high priority areas. But the types of organizations that apply for this: cities, municipalities, You have province, territories, businesses, government agencies. And in this funding, public corridors, you need a minimum of 2 DC fast chargers that are 100 kilowatt or above in order to apply, or 1 DC fast charger combined with an existing DC fast charger, which gets you to a total output of 150 kilowatts and above. The other requirement when it's public, you want these chargers public. You want access to the public, so you got to have those publicly accessible 24/7. Next up would be like the community charging. Think of these like public buildings, public curbside chargers, recreational facilities. A lot of these locations, maybe you don't need the fast chargers, so you lean more towards like level 2 charging. And in that case, the minimum requirements are lower, right? You need a minimum of 2 50 kilowatt DC fast chargers or 20 level 2 chargers in order to apply. And remember, these minimum requirements, they can be across multiple different locations, right? So if you have, 5 locations, you need 4 level 2 chargers at each. That will get you to that minimum requirement. Once again, since this is in the public stream, you want these publicly accessible 24/7. There's another application. It's for the private stream. Okay, private stream include multi-res buildings, workplaces, fleets, retail, hospitality, academic institutions. So these are locations where you need charging stations, but you don't want the public accessing those charging stations. Okay, maybe you want them just for staff, maybe you just want them for fleet, maybe you just want them for your hotel guests. Then that's fine. But you apply for the private stream. Okay, a lot of different organizations, can fall under this umbrella. And then you can see the minimum requirements, right? 2 50 kilowatt DC fast chargers as a minimum, or 20 level 2 chargers. Once again, can be across multiple different locations. Okay. And one important note, this is a little different if you've experienced other ZEVIP programs, is it must be for existing buildings. So unfortunately, for new builds, they cannot be included in this rebate program. And finally, you have like your indigenous communities, right? Indigenous communities, they fall under the same, different types of applications, public corridors, communities, private. They have the same minimum requirements as well, but they're eligible for more funding. So indigenous communities get up to 75% off hardware and install costs, which is amazing. So here you can see like the different funding amounts. It goes by power level, right? The faster you get, the more it's going to cost, both on the infrastructure side and on the hardware side. So you can see level 2 chargers, you're getting 50% off hardware and install up to 5,000 for indigenous, 7,500 more. DC fast chargers, typically if you're going DC, you'd want to start like 50 kilowatts and above. So 50 kilowatt, hardware alone, you're getting 50,000 in incentives off of the hardware and install costs. Indigenous 75,000, and then you have the higher power outputs. Obviously, you get more funding. Okay, good. So the application process, right? This is what to expect if you plan to apply for this program. You basically have to submit an application by September the 19th, 2024. So we have time right now, but time flies, so to speak, right? So you want to get on the ball, right? You want to start engaging with us, reviewing the application and start to move towards completing those applications. Once you submit the application, I'm not going to lie, it's a bit of a long, slow process, right? But Enercan, what they do is they review applications. Now, these programs are typically subscribed, which is why it's important to partner with experts such as us, right? Because you want to put your best foot forward in these applications to give you a good chance of getting approved in these programs. Okay, so they're going to review your applications on a number of different merit scoring criteria, and they'll get back to you up to 100 calendar days later. So expect to get acceptance into these programs the earliest, like early 2025. Once you get that conditional approval, Then you have 3 months to finalize that contribution agreement with Enercan. And then your clock starts, really, right, to deploy your project. You want to stick to the timeline that you put in your application, right? Because that's why they approved your project. But typically you have up to 30 months to complete your projects. So like I mentioned earlier, think not only, hey, what do I need, next year, but what do I need 2026? What do I need even early 2027? What to consider when selecting an EV charging provider. So I'm going to pass things off to our application engineer, Yamna, and she's going to give you some ideas of things to consider when you're talking to your EV charging providers. Yamna.
Thanks, Alan. Hi, everyone. Yeah, so there are a few things to consider when selecting your EV charging partner. So there's the hardware, there is the network, there is the services that are available, and each vendor out there provide their own version of that. So just make sure to select a partner that can cater to your needs. So for example, on the hardware side is the unit configurable to your site layout, for example. Can it have multiple different configuration? Is it modular? And also when it comes to the temperature rating, so of course the hard conditions in weather conditions in Canada, you want to consider a minimum of -40 degrees Celsius in terms of the hardware rating. And of course, there is the on-site serviceability. So is it easily serviceable? Is it serviceable by one person or more? Of course, that will add to the cost of the installation and the maintenance of your deployment. Next slide, Ellen. So when it comes to the network services, so there is, of course, the uptime. So look for a partner that is able to give you that minimum downtime. So someone with a one-stop shop that provides the hardware, the network, and the services so that when issues arise, you have only one point of contact. So that is something to consider there. And in terms of the network services, every vendor really has their own version of services and associated fees. So make sure to compare the pricing on the network fees because everybody has a different version of it. And of course, when it comes to the network overall, having a large network across the country makes a big difference, and having someone with the roaming agreements existing so that users don't have to use multiple apps to use the multiple different types of charging stations out there. So those are just some of the things to consider when it comes to the network services. Now, when it comes to service and support, look for someone that will be able to support you throughout your whole deployment and the process. So the partner that can cater to your needs on a 24/7 basis with real-time support and remote monitoring. A vendor that has local boots on the ground with dedicated teams to make sure to address issues as they come up and just minimize that downtime. So having the dedicated field services and domestically housed parts supply. So having a local company that is able to replace your parts where needed. And that again will minimize your downtime and your cost overall. So I'll pass it back on to Alan.
Thanks so much, Yamna. So just to continue on the presentation, we're going to tell you a little bit more about how FLO can guide you in your electrification journey. So, first and, foremost is we meet all the requirements for the ZEVIP programs, right? So I mentioned earlier, like we've installed thousands of charging stations for hundreds of clients in these different rebate programs. And we check all the boxes when it comes to the requirements and then some. So you have one company and one solution. So we mentioned a few times things like reliability, things like uptime, and all of these are possible with us because we are that one-stop shop, right, for EV chargers. A lot of our competitors, they'll do small pieces of the puzzle. Some may be manufacturers, some may be network operators, some may be software providers. For us, we do it all, right? So you can have that peace of mind knowing that, hey, if you need something for your EV chargers, you call us, right? You call FLO, you call the experts. We have different solutions for different market segments. So I mentioned the different market segments, all the types of different clients that can apply. We have solutions for all of those scenarios. Okay, so ranging from our level 2 chargers, we have products like our Smart 2 unit, which is great for public installs. Key characteristics of it, it has things like it's vandal proof, it has a locking head, it has multiple configurations like pole mounted units. You have a very high pedestal, it's about 12 feet tall, which allows it to be easily viewed from way. And then you have our chargers, like our level 2 chargers, right? This is our biggest selling level 2 charger. It's great for like workplaces, for fleets, for commercial locations. Key things with that is with the Core Plus is the versatility of the product, right? You have a lot of different power options, right? Ranging from 7.2 kilowatt all the way up to 19.2 kilowatt. You have a lot of different mounting options, ranging from wall mounted to dual pedestals to cable management. It's a nice modular design. You can just build it as you need it. And then it has a lot of power sharing, energy management options, things like power sharing, power limiting, where you can work with your existing electrical infrastructure and customize the solution that works best for you. Then you have our tried and true, DC fast chargers, our FLO Smart DC chargers we have installed all across Canada, including, very remote locations like, Northwest Territories, Yukon. So you can know and rest assured that that charging station has been tested in, cold Canadian climates. We have hundreds of these installed across Canada. It has 2 different charging standards available on the units, right, to basically allow all electric vehicles in the market to use these chargers. They have built-in payment systems, right, if you want to open these to the public. They have options for credit card readers on these charging stations, and they're weatherproofed, right? They're cast aluminum, weatherproofed to -40. And then finally, we have our newest, latest and greatest DC fast charger. I mentioned, hey, the EV charging landscape is changing. Gone are the days of 50 kilowatt is what people are looking for on these public chargers. Now we have products like our FLO Ultra, which has a lot of like really sleek features and unique features that's exclusive to our product. So this is a 320 kilowatt. It's actually a dual. So if both units are being used, you're getting 160 kilowatts per head. And since it's considered a dual, the great thing about that is in the rebate programs, you're getting 2 rebates for that one, right? So you're getting up to 150,000 off in rebates. Some other unique features with that has a motorized cable management. So as the charging speeds get faster, the cables get harder to handle. So it's good for people with disabilities, seniors. Also has lit up canopies, right, which work really great in public locations. Lights up, illuminates the areas. And then it also has very user-friendly touchscreens on those units. All of our charging stations include our global management service. I mentioned earlier, these charging stations have to be quote unquote networked. And this is part of our service that we provide with our charging stations. Along with the communication, our chargers communicate through a cellular network, which means it's really easy for the install. It means it's really convenient for the station owners. We're not tying to your Wi-Fi. We're not connecting to your networks, internal networks. We're using our own cellular network. Also, besides the communication, it includes things like the revenue collection, right? Our chargers, have those built-in payment systems. We provide software and firmware updates to future-proof your charging stations. You get access to your owner web portal, right? You're going to have a dashboard where you can change the usage fees. You can, extract usage reports. You can change energy management features. I mentioned earlier the payment system. We handle all aspects of the revenue collection, from maintaining payment system compliance to handling any transaction disputes. We also do the remote station monitoring, right? And that's where that reliability and uptime come into play. For example, our FLO Ultra, it has over 200 built-in sensors that we're monitoring to make sure that charging station is up and running properly. And if it's not, our customer support team is outreaching to our station owners. And lastly, we have 24/7 end user customer support. That would be, at the charging station. So if you're deploying chargers, you want a hands-off solution. People go to your chargers, they have any questions, they call us 24/7, and we're here to support them. In talking about support and uptime, we have a lot of different warranty options. Our chargers, commercial chargers, they typically come with a 1-year warranty included. We have extended warranty options available. You can purchase up to 5 years in extended warranty in all of our products. And if you're looking for an even higher level of reassurance, of uptime, then you can opt for our performance warranty, which is also available for up to 5 years. Our performance warranty includes additional protection on things like vandalism. You get priority service in terms of like commissioning the chargers. Also, you get a guaranteed response time of 24 hours or less. We actually have financial penalties with that performance warranty. So if we're not meeting those standards, then we refund 50% of what you're paying for that warranty. And finally, that 98% uptime, it's guaranteed with our performance warranty, or we get that financial penalty. So a lot of different ways we can support you, right? First of all, personal consultation. If your project's in Ontario or it's a national scale project, you'll deal with, myself. If you're in other regions, we have my counterparts in the other regions will provide their contact information on a future slide. But consult with us. We're the experts, right? We can help you right size your deployment, right? Do you need level 2? Do you need level 3? Do you need, 50 kilowatt, 320 kilowatt? We can help you narrow that down. Also, if needed, right, we can loop in our application engineers, folks like Yamna, right, who can help on the installation side, right? In terms of installation, we can work with your own existing electrical contractors if you have preferred contractors that you want to work with, or we could refer contractors that we've worked with before in the past as well. So a lot of flexibility when it comes to installation. And then, of course, we can loop in our application engineering team. And then we confirm the recommended, product mix based on those initial consultations. And at the end of that process, we'll provide you with your hardware quotes and everything you need to start your application. At that point, you're going to review the ZEVIP application. We provide a support package, which gives best practices on completing that application. From our experience, we know what they're looking for, and then you apply. After that, we wait for acceptance. You'll get into the program. And at that point, you want to, complete your installations, right? So we're that one-stop shop. We provide support with your installations. If your contractors have any questions or yourself have any questions, you reach out to us. We provide that support. Finally, chargers are installed. We help with the activation and onboarding, commissioning, right? And we'll provide like a webinar with you to help you, guide you, learning the ins and outs of your owner web portal, your dashboard. And then finally, we're available live, as needed, 24/7 from then on. So best practice practices, I'll just list them over here. So, the earlier the better. Get in touch with us. It's, we're reaching into August now, right? So now it's definitely, you definitely have enough time to begin your process to submit an application, but definitely start moving towards doing that as soon as you can. You want to also obtain proof of financing when you're submitting your application. You want to make sure that you can cover the remaining 50%, or in the case of Indigenous applicants, remaining 25% of project costs. Because NRCan, they want to feel confident that you can complete your project. You want to create a checklist of mandatory requirements based on the application guide. You want to make sure you check off all the boxes that are required. Otherwise, they're just going to pass over your application, unfortunately. It isn't first come, first serve, these applications, so you have until the 19th. But often it's recommended, to apply maybe a couple weeks before the deadline. That just gives a chance for perhaps NRCan to reach back out if they notice something is, gleamingly missing from your application. You want to also have documents demonstrating ownership of your site, or if you're not the site owner, you want to provide a letter from the site owner that you're going to have access to that site for a period of 10 years or more. You want to review the online form ahead of the submission, obviously. Follow along the funding guide. So along with the application comes the funding guide. Follow also our support package that we will provide to you. And then lastly, if you're going to be increasing the capacity of your site more than 50 kilowatts, then you do want to provide proof that you have engaged with the local utility, right? So engage with the local utility as soon as possible, right? Because sometimes they could be backlogged, and that will all be best practices for submitting. So now I'm going to pass things off to Tony from Canoe, and he's going to tell you how the public sector can leverage their program, can work with us. We have an agreement with Canoe, a contract, and I'm going to pass things off to Tony to give you some more information.
Great, thank you, Alan, for that, and thanks for partnering with us on this. It's a great opportunity to kind of introduce, our program to the public sector, and kind of just let you know who Canoe is. And before I start there, just a personal anecdote, just from the information you shared. I bought an EV back in 2018, and I could say back then the range anxiety was a real thing, and through your efforts, certainly that anxiety is coming down. So appreciate all the efforts being had through that. But just going on to Canoe, we are a nonprofit organization. We're a group purchasing organization. We're municipally owned and operated. And through this agreement, we've partnered with Sourcewell, who's our American partner. We brought this contract into Canada for our Canadian members to leverage. If you could go to the next slide, Alan. And so who can be a member of Canoe and leverage our contract with FLO? Any municipal, academic, school, or healthcare institution across Canada is able to leverage our contract. The process is pretty simple, and I'll get to that in a little bit, but municipalities are certainly one of our main focuses, but I see so many different applications here for FLO. Again, just personally speaking, how many times I've gone to a conservation area and they've had charging systems in place, it's great. Obviously academic institutions, going to that municipal park for a festival, knowing I could charge, or even to a hockey game, in a couple towns over for a tournament. It's always nice to have that assurance that I'll be able to charge and get home with ease. But this just kind of gives you an overview of all the different institutions that can leverage our contract and become a member of Canoe. Another one I'd like to point out is other nonprofit organizations and Indigenous communities can also leverage Canoe contracts. Next, please. And so I'd like to point out, because I came from the procurement world, one of the things that is always a concern is is that we're not skipping any process in terms of compliance and due diligence, right? And I think this is kind of important to call out that, you know, through Canoe and through our contract with FLO, we didn't skip any steps. We went through the whole process that any public organization would have to go through to award a contract with FLO. And you know, coming from that procurement world, you know, in cases like this where special funding's, you know, in place or grants, and you're trying to get those applications done, this helps assure you that that speed and efficiency is there, so that you can rest assured that the compliance on the procurement side is taken care of, and you can focus on your application for that funding, knowing that once that's approved, you can move forward with your contract as you see fit. And I know from my old days, that's a lot of the focus that my teams would take is look at group purchasing contracts and leverage them wherever we could, so that we could focus on all of the other work that we had to do in a day. Next. Yeah, so just a quick QR code there for those that want to scan and navigate to our website, where you could find the FLO contract and the details in that. You know, we've got everything up in terms of our relationship. FLO can offer their entire solutions through the contract, so rest assured that that's all taken care of. And you can find more information on our website once you're starting to do your due diligence and looking into leveraging Canoe. Next, please. And really, it's pretty straightforward from a Canoe perspective. Once you've engaged with your team, with Alan's teams, and you want to move forward, in order for you to meet your compliance requirements, all we need from a Canoe perspective is having your contract number listed, which was on the previous screen, and your membership number with Canoe. So if you're not sure what that member number is, you can reach out to any one of us at Canoe. You can reach out to me, and I can connect you with your member relations contact in the province that you're located, and we could certainly walk you through and assist you with setting up your account or providing you your account number. And then just giving you a little bit more of an overview if you need it in terms of how we established our contract with FLO, and answer any of those compliance questions you might have. Yeah, that's pretty much it from my side of things, Alan. Thanks for the opportunity. Hopefully our members can participate and take advantage of ZEVIP program.
Awesome. Thank you so much,
Tony. And I guess. Yeah, thanks, Tony. Appreciate that. And I can say personally that it's a great program to leverage, right? If you're in the public sector, because with the ZEVIP program, you got to remember that it's a timeline as well, right? You get that acceptance into the program, and then you're on the clock. So it really helps streamline the procurement process. And the other major benefit to the clients that are leveraging that program is, hey, they leverage that group purchasing pricing as well, right? So special discounted pricing. Good. So one last thing before we kind of wrap things up, I do want to mention, I didn't mention it earlier, that you can potentially stack these ZEVIP programs as well. So if anybody is in here that might have applied for the charge on rebate program, which was out at the end of 2023, early 2024, you could potentially stack it if you're in other areas. I know there's different rebate programs. In BC, I know there was a Clean BC. I know in Quebec, there was the MERN program. So, just keep that in mind as well. And when you stack it, you can get, potentially higher discounts. Good. So that's all we have today. We left about 10 minutes for questions. So you want to just work through some of these questions here, Andy?
Yeah, absolutely. Thanks, Alan. So we do have a few great questions I think definitely apply to groups listening today. Can you maybe just dive into a little bit more information how FLO or charging experts can assist with ZEVIP applications?
Sure. I think there's a little bit of feedback there, Andy.
Oh.
Yeah, so.
Apologies.
Yeah, how we can support with the applications. Well, like there's a number of ways, right? We help you right off the bat. We help you right size, right? We'll educate you if you need that education on what the proper product is for your deployment, right? Well, based on a lot of different factors, timelines, budgets, just what your goals are really, right, for the project. But once we have that in line, we help with the installation support. In terms of the application itself, we provide that support package that we were talking about. In our experience, right, it's best for us not to actually fill the application for our clients because in our experience in the past, that's actually been a negative thing, right? Because, once Enercan starts seeing similar language across the different applications, that can lower your scores. So you want to definitely put in a lot of detailed information about your company, and we provide that support package like I mentioned earlier. Good. Next question, Andy.
Yeah. So this one came from, I believe, a municipality, but I guess it's a good question anyways. So this client already has existing flow chargers, and they're looking to add more. Will this, having existing flow chargers and looking to add more flow chargers, assist with their business case or increase their merit points?
Okay, good. There's still a little bit of something with your mic there, but in terms of the municipal clients, yeah, it depends what sector they're applying for, right? If it's going to be on the public side, it'd be good to kind of take a peek at that map to see if they're in a higher scoring zone or not. Okay. Keep in mind, just because there's a lot of chargers in one area doesn't necessarily discount you that you won't be a high priority area, because it's also factoring in population density as well. So, have a look at that map if it's public. If it's on the private side, then it won't impact you, right? Because at the end of the day, if you're let's say increasing your fleet as an example, and you're buying more vehicles, then you need the charging stations. You just need to communicate that well in your application, right? Say, hey, we're increasing our fleet 50% over the next 3 years. Build the story into your application.
Awesome. Thank you, Alan. And sorry, I hope my mic connection's doing better. But here's another question. I believe this is related to our connected services like GMS, Global Management System, and services. And the question is there a risk or that the cellular connection could be lost with our network connected chargers? And how do we address that potentially or safeguard from losing connection?
Sure. Yamna, you want to take that one?
Yeah, sure. So if there is intermittent connection, cellular connection on site, actually our charging stations are still functional, so you're still able to use them. It will not affect the user experience. You can hand out RFID card. So if you're not able to access the FLO app on your phone, we provide RFID cards as well that you can tap. So with the cellular connection gone, there really shouldn't make any difference. The only difference is that any data history or anything like that will be just delayed. So as a site host owner, you might just have a delay in that data history and services. But other than that, from the user's perspective, there should be no difference.
Something I'll add to that is, you do have cases where some locations may have a low or negligible cell signal, right? And in those cases, we have other options to communicate with the chargers. We could provide like a LAN connection, right, where you're connecting to your building's network router instead. Or we could do what's called a master auxiliary connection, right, where you're installing the communication gateway in an area where it does have a better cell signal, and then you're hardwiring to an auxiliary gateway, which is closer to the charging stations. That would be an example, maybe in like a multi-res building, right, where you're a few stories down, there's lack of cell signal, or more in like a rural area where there's just lack of cell towers and connections.
Yeah, and we typically
yep.
have that assessed at the beginning of the project deployment as well. So we assess that beforehand if the cellular signal is adequate on site. If it's not, then we provide these alternative options. But if it is intermittent, then yeah, that there shouldn't make any difference.
Awesome. Thanks, team. That was a great response to that. This one is related to condos and stratas. For condos and stratas that can't meet the minimum requirement of 20 level 2 chargers, is there an option if they're looking for 2 to 4 or a smaller quantity below the requirements?
Sure. Yeah, okay, so it's a good question. I mentioned earlier that you can, go across multiple different locations, right? So oftentimes you have a property management, group that has, 4 or 5 buildings and they want a handful of chargers at each. That could be one way of doing it. If you're an existing building and you want to, and it's a singular building and you want to put in those chargers, you do need a minimum of 20. And, remember that the fact that, hey, this is going all the way out till March 31st, 2027. Okay. So you got to, if you're going out to, for example, the residents, you're doing a study, right? You got to say, hey, are you looking to install all the way up until March 31st, 2027? And hopefully you can get up to that 20 mark. In the case that you absolutely can't, I had some in the past that wanted to do something more in like a common area and they opted for DC fast chargers, right? Maybe you go 2 lower power DC fast chargers, 250 kilowatt units, that will get you that minimum requirement as well. The last option is reach out to us because there is another like sister funding program to the ZEVIP program. It's called the Third Party Delivery Program. Third Party Delivery Program is done through middlemen that help distribute funds to ultimate recipients such as that condo, okay? And that rebate program, the specific purpose of it was for these smaller projects, okay? The issue with these, delivery agents is most of them are oversubscribed, right? But they're being slowly topped up, and we know all of them, right? So at the end of the day, if you reach out to us and you let us know what region it is, what type of project it is, we can let you know if there's a delivery agent with funds available, and we can connect you to their program. But that would be the different options for that condo.
Thank you, Alan. It looks like we only have time for one more question.
Sure.
I'll just mention that the webinar, before we do end it off, the webinar recording and deck will be shared through email as a follow-up. For questions that we don't receive, we'll have a FLO representative reach out to you with your individual inquiry. But here's the last question. I believe, Tony, this is geared towards canoeing yourself. What is the incentive for using a purchasing organization like Canoo versus buying directly?
Sure. Really, it comes down to a couple things. First and foremost, typically it's compliance, right? So a lot of times members are looking for that compliant avenue from a procurement perspective to be able to procure what they need quickly and efficiently. As I mentioned, being from that world, a lot of times when it came to grants and special funds, they always had tight timelines attached to them, and sometimes doesn't allow for that procurement process to be completed on your own. But through Canoo, you've connected all those dots, you've or checked off all those boxes in terms of the compliance requirements on the procurement side to satisfy your those requirements. And then also, as Alan mentioned earlier, we do have some discounts through the contract that FLO's offered. So hopefully that you'll see some additional savings through the contract as well. But normally, it's, especially in these cases, it's speed and efficiency that kind of rule the day when it comes to our members and needing a quick turnaround on a process.
Awesome. Thank you, Tony. I want to thank all our speakers, Alan and Yona, and everyone participating today. Thank you, and have a great day.
Thanks, everyone. And there's the contact information for all the representatives across Canada. So reach out to Oliver if you're in Western Canada, all the way up until Manitoba, myself, if you're in Ontario, or if you have a national project. And then you have Clement, who looks after Quebec and the Maritimes. Thanks, everybody, and look forward to hearing from you. Thanks. Have a great day.
Thank you.
Take care. Bye.